Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy. So what fucked up shit are you bringing today?
Well,
wait. When and where?
All right. I don't feel like that was a nice way to start, by the way. Your profanity is unnecessary, ma'am.
Cry about it later. What story are you telling?
So our when is August 2015. Our where is a place known for a neighborhood south of its main downtown city, and that neighborhood is called German Village. Any guesses as to where that is?
France.
Nope. Columbus, Ohio.
Oh, so I only got one guess? That would have been nice to know.
Dude, there's sometimes you don't even give me a guess. Your Alabama case, you didn't even give me a chance to answer.
Because you're a bad guesser. I, however, am a good guesser.
Says the lady that just said France.
Look, are you going to tell the story or what?
Anyway, Sunday, August 2nd, 2015, a 911 call was placed by a woman who had the unfortunate experience of watching a man set a woman who was sitting in the grass outside of a gas station on fire.
Okay, we're just hopping right into it, huh?
Sure are. That's what our case is about today.
How do you watch that?
I think that would be extremely scarring.
Horrifying?
Yeah. Judith Ann Malinowski, we're going to call her Judy. She was born August 26th, 1983. She was the oldest child in her family. Judy had a younger sister named Danielle and a younger brother named Patrick. Judy graduated from New Albany High School in the class of 2001. She was also homecoming queen. She was a former beauty pageant winner, and she was named Miss New Albany. She was both kind and beautiful. She participated in numerous social and community activities, and she went on to attend Ohio State University. When Judy was asked what she wanted to be when she grew up, she would often say she wanted to be a teacher, and she wanted to be married and have at least 2 kids.
How old is she?
Well, I'm just giving you the rundown, but when this all happens to her, she's 31. So she would, in fact, go on and get married, and she would have 2 daughters, Madison and Kaylin. Unfortunately, Judy and her husband would divorce after she found out that he cheated on her, and then he left her. Now, we're going to fast forward after their divorce, and Judy begins dating a man named Michael Slager in April of 2015. Now, that puts us to our 911 call of this woman is witnessing a person on fire outside of a gas station.
What time and period is that? You said they started dating in April.
Yeah, and then Judy gets set on fire August of 2015, August 2nd. So only a few months.
Just still a fresh couple.
Mm-hmm. EMTs rushed Judy and Michael to the hospital because they both suffered burns.
Oh shit. Did somebody set them both on fire? Like those acid thrower fuckers?
I don't know what gas stations you go to, but we get gas at different places.
No, you did. Sometimes it's a Mexican place. But,
what?
Where I get gas.
You're so stupid.
Anyway, so no, you don't remember like when that was like a thing people were doing, throwing acid in people's faces?
Not in the U.S., no.
I'm just asking. Yes, it was too.
You can't ask me if I remember and then tell me that I'm wrong about my own memory.
Not in the U.S.
I don't remember ever hearing about it in the U.S. No. And you can't argue that.
I will.
It
wasn't in.
You cannot.
It was in the United States. Yes, it was.
I don't remember ever hearing about it in the U.S. I know that there's been the occasional foreign situation where they're in the U.S. and they've done that because it's acceptable in their own country. But
what?
Anyway, that has nothing to do with this. Anyway, so the EMTs rushed Judy and Michael to the hospital. The hospital contacted Judy's mother, Bonnie, and told her that Judy was in an accident and she needed to get to the hospital quickly. As soon as Bonnie arrived, she ran in. She's in a panic. She found Michael in a hospital bed. Bonnie ran into the room and she was asking him, the normal questions you would ask somebody.
Where's her daughter and what happened?
Yeah, what happened? Where's Judy? Michael just looked at her kind of blank stare and then just kept repeating, it was an accident. It was an accident. I didn't do it. Bonnie was like, what? Where's Judy?
What?
Yeah. And then police and hospital staff come running into Michael's room and they told Bonnie, yeah, you can't be in here. And Bonnie's like, where is my daughter?
Yeah, well, I'm confused how the hell she found him and not her daughter. She's just barging through rooms?
So I think because Michael's burns seemed to be more superficial, he was probably in like a triage. And you know how when you go into an ER, all that's there are the curtains. And if the curtain was even slightly open,
So she was just flinging curtains back.
either that or she told somebody at the front desk she was looking for Michael Slager and Judy Malinowski. And since Judy burns are more serious, I'm guessing she was not in the ER and in the triage department.
Yeah, they moved her because she was urgent.
Right. That's how I interpreted that she found his room, but she was just pointed that direction. Nobody told her anything other than there was an accident. They're both in the hospital. So the hospital take Bonnie and Judy's sister Danielle to go see Judy. They walk in and Danielle, Judy's sister, had to leave the room because she was horrified at what she saw. She stood out in the hallway and she began vomiting at the sight of her sister.
Ew.
Yeah.
How bad are her burns?
We're getting there. So I found it interesting on how they rate your burns and your survival, like the likelihood of you surviving. And they use an equation. It's based on the patient's age, what the percentage of burn is, the severity of the burn, and if you had any inhalation injuries. So for Judy, she was 31 years old. She had 4th and 5th degree burns
Oh, shit.
on over 90% of her body, which put her mortality rate at 110%. Judy was going to die. The hospital's burn unit had never seen a person with Judy's injuries survive.
Yeah, the fact that she was able to make it in.
Right. And they said max 7 hours, maybe a couple days, but they didn't think she would live for long, which is why they put the urgency to Bonnie of you need to hurry up and get here.
Yeah. That's so awful. Can I side note that I didn't know until I took EMT classes that there was anything beyond a 3rd degree burn?
Well, I'm going to get into more detail on what the level of burns and like what that equates here in a second. But it's so hard because once you reach 4th degree burns on the internet, it's next to impossible to find anything else because the severity is so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's bad. The police go and they're interviewing a very emotionally distraught Michael. And he said that Judy had filled the truck with gas and she spilled some on herself. And then she had removed her sweatshirt and had asked for a light for her cigarette. And he said that when he went over to light the cigarette, she just went up in flames.
That doesn't seem likely.
Right. So police were like, we're going to go ahead and talk to the witnesses that saw this whole brutal encounter. They quickly realized that Michael's story was not making any sense.
That's a serious gas spill, by the way, if it covered her sweatshirt. And what the hell? How was she filling up her gas?
I have no idea. But you know how I said that her burns were over 90% of her body? It was actually like more on the 95% of her body. That included her back and her butt, which if you spill gas on the front of you, let's just say it's a splash of gas that got on your sweatshirt, I could see maybe a few burns on your hands or whatever, maybe on your legs if it trickled down. But to have your entire body be engulfed in flames like that,
Right.
It's so unlikely. But Judy would go on and have a lot of surgeries. The doctors couldn't fix massive open wounds that were on her back and butt because she was too weak to lay on her stomach during the surgeries without causing too much stress on her organs. So because she was so unstable, they couldn't even try to help her. So police want to know Judy's side of things. However, she's in a medically induced coma. So the doctors decide to bring Judy out of her coma so the police could try to hear her side of what happened.
Oh my God, I already feel bad for her. Can I just say, if I have burns substantial enough to be put in a medically induced coma, don't wake me up. Let me sleep.
While I agree, I think what they're afraid of is Michael saying this was an accident, and witnesses are saying, yeah, no, that didn't look like an accident. That looked like he did it intentionally. And if she's going to die, if she dies without being able to tell her side of things,
I get it. I just feel bad.
yeah, I mean, they have a chance to hear what happened. It's painful to watch. There's a documentary called The Fire That Took Her. It's on Amazon Prime. I did watch it. And there are a lot of the interviews and like police, the body cam footage and things like that that you can watch. And it's painful to see the detectives talk to Judy because you can see that she's in pain and she is visibly suffering. In the documentary, when the detectives go to talk to her, the detective even mentions when he does like a one-on-one conversation for the documentary that he doesn't even know what to expect when he talks to her because he wasn't sure if she'd be able to even hear him because her ears were gone.
Oh, fuck, Andrea.
Yeah. And as the detective leaned in to try to speak with Judy, she first needed to be told that she was in the hospital. And after going through the panic and realizing her body hurt everywhere, once she calmed down, she does communicate that she is in a lot of pain. The detective then asks her if Michael accidentally spilled gas on her, and she shook her head no. When the detective leaned in again and asked, "Did Michael pour gasoline on you on purpose?" Judy barely had a whispered voice, but she said yes as she nodded her head. When Michael poured the gas on Judy, some fuel had gone down her throat. The fuel caused so much damage to her throat that she could barely speak above a raspy whisper. So she got
Oh,
gas down her
God.
throat. That's,
What a piece of shit.
yeah. The police then go to Michael and they're like, "Hey, just so you know, you're under arrest for felonious assault." He was like, "What? Why? It was an accident. I didn't mean to have any of this happen." And that's when the officers were like, "Yeah, okay, dude. Just so you know, before you waste my time or yours, where you parked at this gas station, there's a bank across the street with the ATM facing your truck. So that ATM camera recorded everything that happened." And then the police continue to explain to Michael that they'd already contacted the bank and had already received the ATM footage and had already watched in a silent room with other officers there as they watched Michael pull up in his black pickup truck to the side of the gas station. You see the couple get out of the vehicle. You can see from their body language and flailing arms that they were having some sort of heated argument. You see Judy go over and sit in the grass on the curb on the side of the gas station, and she's kind of in front of the pickup truck. Michael walks away angrily. He goes to the bed of his pickup truck and comes back to Judy after grabbing something. He empties what appears to be a red 5-gallon jug of gas onto Judy. You can see her put her hands up and her head down as the gas poured down her head and drenched her entire body. Michael then walks away from Judy, returns to his pickup truck, pauses, then stomps back to where Judy was now covered in gasoline on the ground, and he reaches into his pocket as he bends down, and then he flicks the lighter that is now in his hand and sets his girlfriend on fire.
What the fuck?
Right? And that's all recorded.
You know, I sure do like when somebody's a dirty, rotten liar and they're like, yeah, well, it's on camera, asshole.
He claims that they made up.
It's a weird way to make up.
Well, he claims that she asked him for a light for a cigarette.
What?
The time from when he pours the gas on her and stomps away to coming back to set her on fire is under 30 seconds. So I don't know about you, but I don't think even if Jason came over and poured a bucket of water on me, I don't think it's going to take me 30 seconds to forgive him for that.
I'm just going to say it wouldn't have me cool off, that's for sure.
No, definitely not.
And I'm going to say, not that I'm a smoker at all anyway, but I definitely wouldn't smoke at a gas station, let alone if somebody poured gas on me, I spilt gas on me, none of the things would I be like, hey, can you light me that cigarette before this dries?
Right? So in the video though, because you can watch it, it's really sad to watch. It's not clear. So the bank is in the same parking lot. It's not like there's a main street between. It is in like an adjoining parking lot, but it is blurry. It is not meant for the long distance that it's at, but you can definitely see what's going on.
Enough to know that it's not a whoopsie.
Right. No, you can see that it's not a whoopsie. You can see by the way he's stomping to his truck. He stomps back over to her. He pours it all over her, then stomps off. And then you can see him pause, which means he thought about it. He thought about just leaving her covered in gas, but then he changed his mind, walks back over to her, and sets her on fire. He did that intentionally. He's got no leg to stand on here. He did this on purpose.
Did he get burned because she went up so fast that it was like flash burns?
Yes. Yeah.
Tell me he breathed it in and died.
We'll get to all that. But Judy is then seen on the video stumbling around and she's screaming out for help while trying to put the flames out that had quickly engulfed her entire body. And Michael just stands there and watches as Judy's burning alive. A witness at the gas station runs over to Judy, and that prompted Michael to go run and grab a fire extinguisher, and he puts the flames out. However, the horrendous damage is already done to Judy. And this is where I got into the whole, I was curious about the burns. I feel like everybody's had a first degree burn, which is basically a sunburn. It's red, it's painful. There's no blisters, no permanent damage. It just affects the outer layer of the skin. A second degree burn affects not only the top layer of skin, but also the underneath layer. Your skin's usually red, it can be swollen, it could look wet or shiny. You'll see blisters and it will hurt to the touch. Now, a third degree burn, that's usually referred to as a full thickness burn, and that means instead of just becoming red, the burn can turn black, white, yellow, or brown. That burns every layer of the skin. And these burns usually aren't too painful because the nerve endings are damaged, but the catch with that is the skin that's connecting that isn't burned as badly, because you can't just have.
Yeah, it's like a bullseye. So if it's third, you got second and first.
Right. A fourth degree burn, which is what Judy has, those are extremely serious and they're usually life threatening. These burns will destroy all the skin down to the bone, through the muscle, the tendons, everything. The burn will appear charred or even white. And this is where it made me think of like charcoal. If you've ever lit a charcoal fire, how the black charcoals will turn white because they're so hot.
Yeah.
And then Judy also had fifth degree burns, which I had trouble finding information online about it. There are plenty of pictures of fifth and sixth degree burns. Usually those are on corpses.
Dead people?
Yeah, because they don't survive that. And I do not recommend looking at those photos if you have a weak stomach, because they are gooey and gross and it's really horrifying to look at. But I feel like when the bones are so severely charred that a limb is amputated, that's generally what a fifth degree burn is. And like I said, majority of Judy's body was fourth and fifth degree burns. Now, the police have informed Michael, we watched this video, we've talked to the witnesses, this wasn't an accident. And Michael was like, yeah, but it didn't happen the way it looks on the video. And I was like, what?
You figure.
And then he explains that she threw a soda at him first, which she did in the video. You see her chuck a soda at him. And he claims she spit in his face. Again, it's too far away. I have no idea if she did or not.
What were they arguing about?
I'll get there. But he said he wanted to retaliate against her for throwing a soda at him. That's why he poured gas on her. His intentions were just to ruin her clothes. That's when he claims that she plopped down and he was just going to leave her there after he poured the gas on her. Supposedly, she began begging him to stick around. Please don't leave. I love you. And they made up from their fight in that 30 seconds. He said that she then asked him for a cigarette, which is when he bent down to light the cigarette, and instead she went up in flames. That's such bullshit.
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense. The prosecutor on this case said if he went on trying cases for another 20 years, he would never see another case so ripe for the death penalty. And I agree.
Yeah, he tried to cook someone alive.
Realistically, the prosecutors were having to wait for Judy to die so they could charge Michael with her murder. The doctors told her family that with burns as severe as Judy's, they only expected her to live for a few hours. Little did they know, Judy was a fighter. Judy was in a coma for months, but she was still alive. One day, the unthinkable happened, and after 7 months in a coma, Judy woke up. The prosecutor said it was the first time in a homicide case where he was going to get to meet the victim. That's so sad, by the way.
Yeah.
Judy went on to suffer through more than 60 surgeries. She had many skin grafts. She coded 7 times, and they brought her back.
This is so wrong.
It really is. And Judy's medical bills went well into the millions. So her mother filed for victims' benefits, tried to get help for her family and for the bills and all that.
Right.
However, there's a law in Ohio that states if you have any illegal substances in your system, you do not qualify as a victim, and therefore the requests for assistance were refused. Which, even if you were super cracked out, you can still be a victim. What kind of crap is that?
Yeah. I was gonna say that seems weird. So if I mean, not that I suggest people go down the path of doing drugs, but that's definitely a way to discourage the drug use, I guess.
My whole thing though is I could see drawing the line at like you got into a car accident and you need help paying for bills, but because you were the drunk driver, you're not the victim in this. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
But if you're in the car and somebody smashes into you and you were a passenger but had alcohol in your system and you're the passenger, like, it doesn't make sense to me. But whatever, her family was told no, she didn't qualify as a victim. They're not going to help. But the reason she had something in her system was on that horrific day of August 2nd, 2015. Judy was on her way to rehab. The reason Judy needed rehab is because when she was a young adult, she found out that she had ovarian cancer. And after beating her cancer once and going into remission, Judy found out during one of her checkups that in 2006, her ovarian cancer was back with a vengeance. And at 27 years old, she had underwent a full hysterectomy to eradicate the ovarian cancer. There were complications from her surgery, and she was prescribed Oxycontin and Percocet, which are highly
Mhm.
addictive for some people. She was aware that she was becoming addicted to her pain pills. She turned to her mother, Bonnie, and said, I think I'm starting to have a problem. And Bonnie told her, she's fine. Just take them like the doctor prescribed. Take them 4 times a day. It'll be fine.
As needed.
Right. It's as needed, no more than 4 hours. But she took them every 4 hours. And then eventually Judy ran out of insurance and out of medicine. She ended up putting herself into a inpatient rehab facility to beat her addiction on the pain pills. And she did beat it, but she still had the occasional pain. Now, she's 27 when she has the hysterectomy, right?
Mhm.
And she goes through the rehab, she sobers up, she gets her life back on track. And at 31, that's when she meets this 41-year-old dipshit, Michael Slager. And after Judy met Michael, everything went downhill for her. He originally seemed really sweet and loving, very attentive to Judy. But everybody else that met him was like, dude, this guy's trouble. But he is a genuine manipulator. And he was just like, I think you're judging me because I have tattoos. And, you're not judging me for who I am as a person, blah, blah, blah. So Judy's family decided to try to accept him. However, what no one knew was Michael had a long criminal history. And I'm not going to get into all the charges and when. Just know that in his 41 years, he had carrying a concealed weapon charge, lots and lots and lots of domestic violence charges, a few theft charges, a menacing charge, several aggravated menacing charges, making a false police report, inducing panic, several assault charges, a rape charge, resisting arrest, petty theft, endangering children, disorderly conduct, sexual battery, a couple of stalking
Oh my
charges,
God.
failure to register as a sex offender, aggravated burglary, a few breaking and enterings, receiving stolen property, criminal activity, passing bad checks, and a couple obstructing official business. And that brings us to his current charges of felonious assault and aggravated arson. He's not
The
a
hell
good
is wrong with
dude.
this guy?
Bad news is what he is. Judy and Michael, they have like a brief Facebook relationship. Eventually, they end up going out on their first date. And literally from their first date on, Michael never left Judy's house. He essentially moved into her house on their first date.
All right.
Fast, right?
Sounds like a bum.
Right. And their toxic relationship just continued to spiral from that first date forward. And Judy began using heroin thanks to Michael because he said it would help with her pain. And he started providing Judy with heroin on a daily basis. But interesting, Michael never did drugs. He just used them to manipulate and control Judy. As we've seen with other cases, drugs are not a good thing. Judy was having trouble functioning. She knew that using was bad and it was making her suicidal because she was a good girl prior to this. She wasn't a bad person and she didn't have health insurance. She couldn't afford the medications. It just, everything kind of spiraled in her life. So Judy's mom took Madison, one of Judy's daughters, and Judy's sister Danielle took her other daughter, Kaylin. to try to help relieve some of the stress on not only Judy, but also to make sure the girls were safe. Michael started manipulating Judy's mom and saying stuff to her like, Judy didn't come home, she's using again, Judy did this, Judy did that. And Bonnie became frustrated with her own daughter, saying, like, Michael didn't deserve this. This is a bunch of crap. Judy began giving Michael money, thinking she was helping pay Judy's bills, not realizing that Michael was using the cash to go buy drugs.
To give to Judy.
Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
Right. And then Michael would hold her addiction over her head. He's such scum. And then he began physically abusing her. He would hit her. He choked her on one occasion. She ended up hiding from him because, again, he's moved into her house. So she ran away from her own home and started hiding from him in hotels. He did shit where he would call the police and say that she stole his car, but he would actually let her borrow the car. But because she wasn't back,
But he stole her house.
right? It was 1 month of them being together before the police were called for the first time for domestic violence. Judy told the police several times that she feared for her life. She said she thought Michael was going to kill her. The police didn't listen to her. He would go to the police and be like, she's got a drug problem. She's crazy. I'm trying to get her the help she needs. And they believed him.
So I could see if she's like even on the brink of hysteria or doing the crying when the police get there, they're more likely to believe you're crazy if you're acting crazy. Not saying she was.
And he's all calm.
Right.
Yeah. Judy and her mother come up with a plan. They decide Judy can get away from Michael and get the help that she needs to sober up by going back to rehab. And that was when August 2nd came around. And the catch, though, was Michael wanted to be the one to drive her to rehab. And Bonnie was even like, I don't know how I feel about this. She had a gut feeling of this isn't going to go well, but it gets her away from him. So cross your fingers that they make it that drive. And man, if we haven't said it before, trust your gut, people. But as for Michael, so the way the law works and the general gist of what the investigator says in the documentary, if you go home and punch your significant other in the face, that's a misdemeanor. It's usually a light sentencing, and as long as the victim doesn't require surgery or have any permanent disfigurement, you just get a slap on the wrist, which is why with all those charges that Michael had, he didn't go for any real length of time in prison because all the other women he abused, all the other things he's done, he's just getting a slap on the wrist, and they don't take it seriously because he hadn't escalated it to permanent disfigurement.
That is disgusting.
Mm-hmm. And since Judy was still alive, yeah, she's disfigured now. But because she's still alive, Michael could only be given a maximum sentence of 11 years for the felonious assault and aggravated arson. To put this in perspective for you, I sent you an email with some pictures. If you want to go ahead and take a look at those, we will post them on our Facebook page also. They are hard to look at. Take a look at them.
Which email?
Our homicide hobbies.
I see. Loading. So you did not paint this. I thought you said 40% of her body. This looks like her whole body, Andrea.
No, I said she had 4th and 5th degree burns on 95% of her body.
Oh my god. How did they wake? They woke her up like this?
Yeah.
I can see why they had to tell her she was in the hospital because her eyeballs are like melted shut.
Her ears are melted off. She has no hair left anywhere.
She's just one giant pussy oozy scab. Oh my, her hand is partially gone. Mm-hmm. Her back
is bloodied and blistered.
Oh.
I don't even know how they can't say she's not 100%. Maybe the soles of her feet weren't burned. I have no idea, but I
don't see a fresh patch of skin anywhere. Her lips, that's so much pain.
Yep. And while you're sitting there horrified, let me let you know this one. They didn't charge Michael with attempted murder.
It was an accident.
Well, they were saying he was trying to take her to rehab. They were arguing over going to rehab. She wanted to go, but I've heard different sides of things they were arguing over she wanted to be able to say bye to her kids, but Bonnie and Michael didn't want the kids to know she was going back to rehab because they felt that the kids didn't need to know that. but she wanted them to know, I'm not abandoning you. I will be back. Mommy will be better. That makes sense to me as a parent of, yeah, I wouldn't want to just disappear for 90 days out of my kid's life. I would want to let them know, mommy's got a problem or mommy's real sick and I'm going to go get the help I need so I can be better for you. But that's what they were arguing about. And because he was trying to help get her clean and he's the one that put the flames out and he's claiming it was an accident, they can't prove that it was attempted murder. Now, Judy was pissed when she heard that he's claiming this was an accident. She was like, no, I'm going to testify against him in the assault. They were going to let her. She was going to use the video conferencing to be able to testify from her hospital bed. And when Michael and his attorney found out that she was going to be able to testify against him, and if Judy later died, her testimony, because she'd be sworn in court, could be used against him in his murder trial. Not to mention, his attorney pointed out, the second a jury got one look at Judy, Michael was going to be hated by everybody. You can't look at those pictures of her, let alone if you hear her voice, you can't help but feel for her.
I don't even know how the medical staff, the one picture he sent there, where it looks like they're trying to help her up because she's sitting on the edge of the bed. I don't know how you could help her up because anywhere you touch her looks like it's just going to cause more pain.
Mm-hmm. It's so bad. And I don't know how she's able to do anything. How do you lay?
You don't.
It looks like it hurt your back. She can't sit. Her butt is burned too. Like, you just, I'd want to stand with my arms not touching anything and just don't touch me. Don't breathe my direction. Just leave me.
Well, and then you know how like when you have a real bad sunburn, it's like you can't. You're real cold because you're really so hot. But you can't. She probably can't even have like a blankie too cozy down because it's just like you're already hurt.
Right. Not to mention, her organs are probably going through so much stress. It's just not good for her, let alone the infection that she's at risk of getting. But in a final attempt to silence Judy, this coward pled no contest the morning his trial was to begin. And for those that don't know, pleading no contest means you're acknowledging the state has enough evidence to say you committed the crime or the crimes in question. However, you're not necessarily claiming guilt, but just acknowledging the state can prove their side of things. You just disagree with how things went down.
Was that an attempt so her testimony wouldn't get entered?
Yes. The judge sounded super emotional if you watch the documentary, or you can look it up online. She scolded Michael for having shown no remorse for what he did. And she pointed out that his lengthy domestic violence history showed the true kind of person he was. And she was really upset and even lectured the prosecutors and said it's the damn legislation that was preventing him from being put in jail for longer. And she sentenced him to the maximum, which unfortunately was just 11 years. And she even points out this girl has a lifelong sentence and he's just going to get 11 years.
And he'll probably be out in 5.
Well, the judge was pissed. And when Judy found out that she wasn't going to be able to testify because he pled no contest, she cried. And it is heartbreaking to watch her cry. It's not right. None of it's right. And she wanted Michael to be held accountable for what he did to her. And every moment of Judy's life is now pain and suffering, not only for just Judy, but keep in mind, she has 2, it looks like they're about elementary school age daughters who are having to see their mom.
Well, I'm surprised they weren't terrified when they saw her.
They didn't believe it was her.
Yeah, I don't even know.
Because you see the before picture, right? Like, she doesn't even look like the same person.
That's because she's melted.
She is melted. Judy, being the fighter that she is, from her hospital bed with the help of her daughters and her family, after suffering for 609 days, they managed to have Judy's Law passed along to the Senate with a unanimous vote making felonious assault punishable for up to 20 years instead of 11. And even though this isn't going to help...
That doesn't do any good now.
Right, that doesn't help her case, but it'll help any future victims. So rather than just worry about herself, she's trying to make a difference, even while mangled in her own bed. So, like I've said all along, everybody knew Judy was going to die, including Judy. and her condition was beginning to worsen because the skin grafts were starting to fail, her body shutting down. So the prosecutors went to the judge and they were like, hey, can we get Judy to give her testimony in a deposition so that we can use that against Michael in his murder trial when she dies? Which that's never been done before. A victim being able to give a testimony in their own murder trial. They argued that since Judy was going to testify originally in the assault case, that would have put her version of events on record. But because she was robbed of that testimony, this would give her a chance as a victim that has suffered the way she has. She deserved to be able to say her version of events. And thankfully, the judge agreed to let Judy give her testimony. However, the catch in all of this, Judy would have to come off all the pain meds she was on in order to be able to give a lucid testimony.
Ugh.
Right. Judy was like, you know what? I'm going to die either way. So yeah, let's do it. Let's come off the pain meds. I need to be able to say my story. Michael deserves to stay behind bars. But if anybody's ever taken any type of medication, you know you can't just stop it right away, especially because, like I said, the stress on all of her organs is really high right now because of the pain she's in. They had to wean her off the pain medications. And because she was on such high doses, because she was a drug user and she had a high tolerance, she was on so much. So it was a very slow, painful weaning process for Judy. This part made me angry. Michael wanted to be able to see Judy testify, which is fine. Everybody has the right to confront their accuser. However, this piece of garbage wanted to not only see Judy testify, but he wanted to see her testify by being allowed in her hospital room
No, fuck that.
while she gave her testimony. And as if that's not already a far reach for an ask, this pig wanted to be able to bypass his attorney and be allowed to be the one to cross-examine Judy.
They better not have granted that one. Keep your ass in jail. How about that?
So thankfully, the judge ruled that no one would be allowed in Judy's hospital room. And since Michael was using an attorney for every other thing having to do with all this, the judge looked at it more like it was an intimidation thing by trying to question her himself. So he was denied being allowed to question Judy. Judy gives her testimony. Again, you can watch it on the documentary. Not all of it, it's just chunks of it. She was cross-examined and gave her testimony for 3 straight hours.
Can I just say that's gotta suck to be his attorney? Because guys gotta go check out the pictures, because I don't know how you walk in there with the mentality that you would anyone else that you're gonna cross-examine.
Yeah, you can't rip her apart and not come across as an asshole.
Yeah.
Which it was interesting to see. I encourage you guys, watch the documentary, because the attorney is talking to the camera crew, and they're like, and he does say that he went in there with the intention of, you have to discredit her testimony. One of the ways of doing that is to discredit her memory. He tried to ask her, do you remember what you were wearing that day? She was like, no, it was 2 years ago and I've endured a lot. I don't remember what I was wearing. I remember what happened, but I don't remember what I was wearing.
It got melted off.
Right. His attorney was just like, he says that it was, I can't remember his exact wording now, but he basically said, that was brutal trying to cross-examine her, because there's no way, you can't interrupt her when she's talking. And when he would ask her a yes or a no question and she goes into more detail, that just made Michael look like the piece of shit that he was, because he was like, were you a drug user? And she's like, I wasn't prior to him, but he's the one that was providing me the drugs. He didn't want all that. He just wanted yes, I was a drug user. I wanted to shut her up. But it's a little comical to see his attorney flustered while trying to talk to her. Unfortunately, not only was she declining in health, which is why they decided to go ahead and make their move to do the testimony, coming off the pain medications, all of this, it was very stressful for her body. And she had a medical setback after that whole ordeal. After 656 days and being exhausted from the struggle to stay alive, Judy signed Do Not Resuscitate papers, DNR, before giving in to the pain, and Judy passed away on June 27th, 2017. Bonnie held Judy's hand as her oldest daughter took her last breath.
That's so sad.
It really was. And her mom in the documentary says she couldn't sign the do not resuscitate. She couldn't do it. So Judy had to sign her own paperwork, but she couldn't really sign it because she was so injured.
Yeah.
So she just did an
She's
X
got like
with,
a club of a hand.
well, she's had to do just an X because she didn't have the strength. Judy, like I've said, was a fighter. She endured 60 surgeries, uncountable skin grafts. As I already said, she died and was resuscitated 7 times. She was in a coma for 7 months. She was bedridden. She could barely speak. Judy's left arm was amputated because it was burned to the bone. She lost both of her ears when they were melted off. She lost her fingers on some of her fingers on her other hand. She lost most of her sight. She lost all of her hair, eyelashes, eyebrows, flesh. But Judy's law was signed into Ohio legislature on September 7th, 2017. So at least I feel like when laws like this get presented, nobody's going to be like, yeah, I don't vote for that.
Right.
Because everybody's going to be getting side-eyeing that feller that's like, yeah, I don't agree that they should go to jail for longer. But I'm glad that it passed. But it's only in Ohio. It's not even a nationwide law. It's just Ohio for now.
I can understand why her mom wouldn't sign the DNR because really she lived so much longer than they thought initially that I feel like she probably, as hard as it was to keep bringing her back, that she didn't want to believe it because they've been wrong thus far
Yeah.
about how long she lived for.
Yeah.
I can't even believe she made it that long.
I know. She saying she was a fighter is an understatement because you've got to have a real will to live to endure what she went through. In 2018, while still in prison for the initial assault charge on Judy, Michael was charged with Judy's murder. Michael was still claiming he did not mean to set her on fire. He tried to fight the use of Judy's testimony and lost that battle. The prosecutors were seeking the death penalty for Michael. Michael, being the cowardly piece of garbage that he is, he wanted to plead no contest again. So the prosecutors went to Judy's family and they were like, how do you guys feel about letting him plead no contest again? This time around, Judy's family was like, no, that shit's not going to fly. They were not having any of that nonsense. Michael murdered Judy. His actions led to her death. Michael needed to acknowledge that what he did was murdered Judy. There was going to be no pleading, no contest. He needed to plead guilty, and her mom wanted Judy's testimony to be shown in court.
Yes, I agree because she went through the pain to come off the meds to be able to testify that she should be heard.
And if it's not played in court, it remains a sealed document, the video, and it's not released to the public. Now that it's been used, you can watch her deposition online. It gets her story out. It's no longer a sealed file. But out of fear of the death penalty, Michael pled guilty in exchange for life without the possibility of parole.
He's a little bitch.
He is. It made me sad because the documentary is as this is going on, and you can see Bonnie, the grandma, talking to the youngest daughter of Judy's, and they were explaining life without the possibility of parole for her. And at first, she was kind of happy with that because she thought without parole meant he wasn't allowed to have contact or visits with his family. And then when they explained it, then no, it just means he's going to be in prison forever, but his family can still visit him. He can still write letters, still receive letters. Watching her little girl get upset because she's like, I don't get to see my mommy anymore. He took her away. He shouldn't be allowed to see or talk to his family either. I thought that was sad.
Poor baby.
At the end, Michael's own attorney was asked by the producers of the documentary, did you feel Michael was guilty? His attorney does the typical attorney thing where he like dances around that conversation or that answer. And he's like, well, all I know is if what happened to her happened to one of my loved ones, even the death penalty wouldn't be good enough. Yeah. I was like, all right. So, but you got to look at these pictures. I mean,
they're awful.
This poor woman, her poor kids. But that is the piece of shit Michael Slager and how he murdered Judy Malinowski.
Well, thank you for that. It's real extra sad.
It really is.
And also, I find it disgusting. It's a misdemeanor. If you hit your significant other, you got to scar them up a bit for it to be a serious.
So I don't know why it's not like a DUI where if you keep tallying these up, it becomes a more serious offense.
Right.
So I guess if you're gonna squabble and you want to justify anybody putting their hands on their significant other, which I think is already a bunch of horseshit, I don't think those should be lenient sentences.
No. I think it should be like 3 strikes only. It's like 3 slaps and it's upgraded.
Right. But even saying that out loud is kind of disgusting because nobody should be allowed to hit anybody. Keep your damn hands.
No, I agree with that, but I was thinking of the people who will call on some shit and it's like they have no marks on them at all, but somebody still gets taken to jail because it was a domestic disturbance kind of thing,
Yeah.
or like the fibbing ladies.
Yeah.
So that's where I was staying there thinking that would also stink to be somebody who is accused, and it's automatically serious because of that. Pretty much, don't be a piece of shit. How about that?
Yeah. Everybody keep your hands to yourselves. If you can't keep your hands to yourself, exit that relationship immediately.
Yeah. And don't do drugs.
Yeah, don't do drugs. And stop, drop, and roll, people. Come on now.
Yeah, I don't think that works for.
It does. I
gasoline,
Googled
though.
it. My search history is so screwed from doing this podcast. But just not this case, but just in general, doing this podcast, I have got one hell of a search history. I've got to be on somebody's watch list. But
Yeah.
I did Google if someone is set on fire using an accelerant, how long does it take to put them out?
I imagine it's harder to put them out, but
So it can still be
so
smothered.
you're also, yeah, but you're also, I'm not, yeah, that's still smothering. Probably wouldn't hurt to do some stop, drop, and roll kind of thing. It's better than running around flapping your arms. Not saying she did that, but it's also going to burn real hot, real fast.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be the same.
So it is hot, it is fast, but it will burn longer. Kind of like those idiots that throw gasoline on a bonfire and then you watch it go poof. It will burn hot and fast. But once the fuel is out, if it will go out on its own, which is a long time. However, if she
I wouldn't recommend if you're on fire with gasoline, just wait it out. Once it's done, it'll go out on its own.
But stop, drop, and roll. If it is a fairly not slow roll, but if you're rolling really quickly, you're just briefly smothering flames. It's gotta be long enough to put out to smush it.
I'm not gonna lie, Andrea. I'm hoping to never have to use that tidbit. And I can't say that if I were to be engulfed in gasoline and set on fire, I can't say that I'll be like, I think Andrew told me to roll slowly.
So, not to make it about me, but to make it as close as I can, a few years ago, for those that don't know this, we have an outdoor wood burning furnace. I went to go throw some cardboard that I had collected in there. I was pushing the cardboard in. It had sealed the opening of the door where you throw the logs and stuff in. And it made it do a flash along the top of the cardboard once air got to it. And the flames shot out. It set the top of my hair on fire, my eyebrows, it burned my face. Which, by the way, we're done talking about this case. You guys can turn this off.
So you can hang out because we're just getting on to a tangent. Eavesdrop if you want to.
Yeah. I remember looking up and seeing my eyebrows on fire. I remember just looking up and seeing the flames on my eyebrows, my face. I don't know how to describe it other than, have you ever opened the oven and you had the heat smack you in the face real quick? It was that feeling, but it felt like it was already on a sunburn. So I don't know if you've ever experienced heat on an already burned skin, but that's what my face felt like immediately. My eyes hurt to open, and then my hair was in a ponytail. So thankfully, having it pulled back, it only burned, I don't know, you saw me that Easter, I'd say like a ½ inch of my hairline all the way around my face was burned off.
You had your mullet.
All of that hurt so bad. And then they had to medevac me to a burn unit. I couldn't imagine the level of burns that she had to endure. And I had to use my hands to smack the fire out on my face, which,
Burned your hands.
yeah, I ended up with burns on my hands. I can't imagine what she went through. I don't have any permanent disfigurement, by the way.
And her mullet's gone.
Yeah, it finally grew back out. I had a bang situation for a while where I had bangs that framed my entire face.
A mullet.
But I was lucky. So I don't know. This poor woman, her family. It was traumatizing for my kids.
Yeah, you were lucky because it put itself out. Like it was just, that was a flash and it was done.
Well, it was a flash. It singed my coat because it was kind of cool out. That's why the fire was going. But I had on a jean jacket. The edges of my jean jacket had caught on fire by my neck, and then my hair was on fire. So I had to use my hands to pat that out. But yeah, I'm lucky that my skin didn't continue to burn. I remember reading your text message of please don't die.
Well, that's because our mother called me and had no information and just said you were medevaced. So I was just like, I didn't know what else to do because I'm states away. So other than text you hoping that she was exaggerating, that I needed you to be okay. And I'm glad you were. And I feel for all the burn victims.
Died twice, got brought back. I have no permanent disfigurement. I was lucky.
That's because you just needed a real good nap.
I just, yeah.
Some
I
people
really
do anything to get out of chores.
Dude, not to sound superficial, the wood burning furnace from where it was to where our house is like a third of a mile away. It's way far back there. And I had to walk back to the house. I saw my reflection because I didn't know how bad it was. I knew it hurt. My hands were red. I had blisters on the backs of my hands where the flames hit my hands when I pushed the cardboard in. But when I saw the reflection on the door of my face and my hair looked like a helmet.
Melted.
It looked like melted plastic, but it was my hair. And as I opened the door, my oldest daughter was home from school because she was sick that day. My oldest son was home and Jason hadn't left for work yet. The two kids were in the kitchen and I walked in there and I calmly said to my son, I need you to call 911. I just set myself on fire. And he laughed and he goes, wait, are you kidding? And my daughter looked at me and goes, what did you do to your hair? And then I again said, with a little bit more panic in my voice, I need you to call 911. I set myself on fire. And then as they just stared at me and then realized that, yeah, I have burns, my hair is melted, my coat was on fire. She ran upstairs and got Jason. She's screaming. My son called 911. He told them I fell in a fire pit. So it's like 8:30 in the morning because I had just dropped the other kids off at school. Jason comes downstairs. He doesn't do well in high stress situations. And it's a joke around here now, but he was wide leg stanced, not moving his feet. He looked like he was doing side lunges left to right. Like, what do I do? What do I do? What can I do? And then he came over like he wanted to touch me to try to make me feel better. And I was like, don't, just don't touch me. And my son's busy telling 911 that I fell in a freaking fire pit. So we ended up with like 3 ambulances, a ton of police, a couple fire trucks, and then a helicopter. But that was a hell of an experience. And then I remember the kids, once everybody was home from school and once I was out of the hospital, I remember my other 2 kids saying they remember seeing the helicopter fly real low and that it was landing because both schools that my kids go to are within 2 miles of our house. So they all saw the helicopter flying low and landing in the general vicinity of our house. Then they found out that I was in it because our mother, when she found out about all this, went to the school and pulled everybody out of school, but first told them while in the school that mommy got set on fire and might not live. And it was like, when I found out that she did that, I was like, ugh.
Well, just like your husband doesn't respond to emergencies well, our mother full-fledged panics, which is why I was texting you just to verify.
Yeah, your text made me cry.
How bad?
When I finally woke up in the hospital, I saw your text and it made me cry. It was a weird feeling too, like what your body goes through. I broke into a full body sweat, apparently, and drenched the dress that I had on. It was a full length dress. It was brand new too. I had just gotten it off at Amazon. It was super cute, but it was soaking wet. Like you could twist it and wring it out with the amount of sweat from whatever my body was doing to itself. It was gross. I had to go home in a hospital gown because Jason and Mom's husband, I don't know what to call him, but they drove to DC to get me from the burn unit and didn't think to bring me any clothes. So I had to ride home in 2 hospital gowns, one to cover the back.
Because that way you didn't catch a chill.
Yeah. But yeah, I hope that Judy's children went to some therapy, because my kids have, thankfully, it's become like a joke around here and everybody realizes that I was lucky, but that was such a traumatic thing for my kids.
Yeah.
I think I was FaceTiming with you once I was home, and our sister and everybody was in the house, and I just wanted to go sleep. But when I went upstairs to take a shower and I took my hair tie out of my hair, and there was like a helmet shaped thing of my hair that had like
came out.
Yeah, the entire half inch all the way around my face was glued to my scalp. Kind of an asshole comment that one of the nurses made as I was leaving was I was going to end up with a new hairstyle after all this, but that I was very lucky. I didn't realize how badly my hair had burned, and because it wasn't anything they had to deal with, my hair was just left melted to my head.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was bad. Real bad. I don't recommend it at all.
No. Feel free not to do it again. Okay. Well, I'll call you in a second.
All right. Have a good day.
Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.